Hello, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, of course, we are going to be talking about Lizzo. And aside from talking about some of the accusations that have been brought against her, I do want to talk a little bit about her branding. Actually, I want to talk a lot about her branding. Because, I'm not saying, in 2023, we're still shocked to find out that celebrities and artists might not be good people. But to me, it's always kind of wild when someone builds a whole entire brand around a concept or an idea, and then what they're doing behind the scenes goes against it. It's like if a vegan influencer was eating meat behind the scenes. It's just weird. And when you sit back and think about it, Lizzo and her team have created such a strong, distinct brand for herself, so I do want to touch on some of those branding moves and aspects of Lizzo's career, as well as some of the cracks in the brand, if you will, aka some of Lizzo's scandals she's gotten into over the years, and how she's responded to those. Also, it is important to note that a lot of artists do use genuine skills and aspects of themselves as part of their brand. It's often not the case that an artist's brand is crafted from scratch entirely from the ground up, but rather taking skills that artist already possesses and incorporating them into the brand and capitalizing off of them for the brand. But then, of course, some stuff is also added and embellished along the way. And Lizzo's brand got to the point where it was so strong that in a lot of articles that I was reading to do research, they were more or less describing her the same way and saying the same things about her, which is the sign of a pretty strong brand. So let's go ahead and get into the video. So of course, the first branding move, which is more of an overarching thing, was for Lizzo to make body positivity and self-acceptance in general a huge part of her brand. She was vocal about this in interviews, on social media, and in her music.
Body positivity,
Yes.
self-love, of course, lovery, is all of what you're about.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling when you're performing your music? What is it that you want fans to get from it?
I mean, I just want people to feel good. My music is like the definition of feel good music, and
Facts.
we all go through it. And I'm not gonna say the word. We go through some.
Amen.
We do. We do.
Especially as women, we out here.
Everybody
confirm.
knows what it is, and I feel like my music just helps people get through a little bit.
It is a fact.
An example is her 2019 single Juice, which was like a retro, funky throwback about Lizzo loving herself and that self-love being an example to others. The music video, directed by Lizzo's former creative director Quinn Wilson, was also retro-inspired. It's mostly 80s themed with the workout gear and infomercial theme, and then other parts of the video seem more 60s inspired. But overall, Juice was a success for Lizzo, and the song did earn critical acclaim. Juice earned Lizzo an AMA nomination, as well as a Video of the Year win at the Soul Train Awards out of 4 other nominations for the song. Juice also made it on several year-end lists for 2019, including Pitchfork and Billboard. Another example is Tempo, Lizzo's song with Missy Elliott. Tempo is a little more overt in its lyrics in regards to body acceptance and celebration. The opening verse reads, "Slow songs, they for skinny hoes, can't move all of this, here to one of those, I'm a thick bitch, I need tempo, fuck it up to the tempo." Tempo was also received well, especially due to the bouncing 90s production as well as the Missy Elliott collab. In addition, Good as Hell, one of Lizzo's breakout songs, was inescapable in 2019. The song was used in several adverts such as Grubhub and Super Bowl commercials. By the end of 2019, Lizzo was hailed as the face of the body positivity movement, with several articles thanking her directly for popularizing the concept of body positivity. Time magazine named Lizzo the Entertainer of the Year for 2019. Aside from her body positivity and popularity of her singles, Lizzo achieved her first #1 on the Hot 100 that fall with Truth Hurts, which she would go on to win a Grammy for. That year, Lizzo also took home Grammys for Best Urban Contemporary Album and Best Traditional R&B Performance. In their profile about her, Time claimed, "Attending a Lizzo concert feels like worshiping at the Church of Self-Love if your preacher was a pop star living joyfully in a big black body, delivering a sermon of self-acceptance that's as frank as it is accessible. At a time when Instagrammers are shilling flat tummy tea or pretending to eat a giant cheeseburger, Lizzo sells something more radical, the idea that you already are enough." I would say that this is a pretty good summary of the brand that is Lizzo and how it's meant to be received. Time points out another thing that set Lizzo apart in a positive way was, of course, her talent as a flautist. Lizzo is a classically trained flautist and has made her flute playing an aspect of her live performances. Quite a few artists play instruments aside from being able to sing or produce, but right now Lizzo's the only mainstream artist who plays flute as part of their act. Early on, Lizzo was open about being a self-proclaimed band geek growing up because of her dedication to learning the flute. After pursuing it at the collegiate level and almost the professional level, Lizzo ended up leaving college and the flute for a little while. She says this is when she decided to become a singer, despite having really only rapped or played the flute before. Flute playing is not only a pretty unique talent, it's also notoriously difficult to learn, so it was definitely smart to utilize this in her performances. Lizzo and her flute, named Sasha Flute, have become such a part of her brand that for a cameo in Hustlers, Lizzo's character also played the flute as part of her act. Eventually, Lizzo was dubbed by some as the Flute Queen, playing everywhere including her own shows, SNL, and the Met Gala red carpet. Lizzo has also played with ensembles including the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, as well as the University of Houston's marching band. High school and university bands alike have paid tribute to Lizzo by playing arrangements of her music. Last fall, she was honored by the Library of Congress and given the opportunity to visit their flute vault, as they have the largest collection in the world. Lizzo also got to play President James Madison's crystal flute, a precious heirloom which no living person had heard played before. The headlines about this were overwhelmingly positive, praising Lizzo not just for her talent, but for using her platform to promote music history. Another important aspect of Lizzo's branding was a dedication not only to body positivity, but also to inclusivity. In March of 2022, Lizzo's competition reality series, Watch Out for the Big Girls, aired on Amazon Prime.
I love my fucking show. I be watching it like I wasn't in it. I be crying and shit. I'm like, all the twists and turns. It's hard to love yourself in a world that doesn't love you back.
You were created specially in your image for you to enjoy.
I'm just so excited for what the world is about to witness. These women are so incredible, not just for their dancing talents, but for their heart and sharing their journeys so bravely with everybody. So get the tissues.
The premise of the show was that 13 hopeful dancers would compete to become one of the big girls, which is what Lizzo's backup dancers are called. Aside from dancing, the show is framed as an opportunity for the contestants to learn how to embrace their curves and shed insecurities about their size, especially in a world like dance. The contestants were put through challenges to evaluate their skills, their stage presence, and their ability to perform despite distracting stage elements. The contestants Lizzo chose to join her on tour as official big girls were Crystal Williams, Arianna Davis, Ashley Williams, Asia Banks, Jayla Sullivan, and Kiara Mooring. Crystal and Ariana are two of the three dancers currently suing Lizzo and her dance captain, which of course I will address later. Reviews for Watch Out for the Big Girls praise its inclusive nature, with one even calling the show pure serotonin. Other reviews commended the show for highlighting the dancers' talent before their weight and in a way that was more realistic and tasteful than exploitative. The series won the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Competition Program, as well as 2 Primetime Creative Arts Emmys. Because of its success, Watch Out for the Big Girls was renewed for a second season back in April. Weeks after Watch Out for the Big Girls aired, Lizzo launched Yitty, her shapewear brand, through a partnership with Fabletics. The brand had been in the works since 2019, so likely relatively quickly after Lizzo's meteoric rise to fame. In their reporting on the launch, Forbes claimed that with Yitty, Lizzo wants to bring the same message of positivity and self-love to her shapewear line. Yitty is intended to be a more colorful take on shapewear, with bright colors and patterns that could be worn either as undergarments or by themselves. Aside from their size range that goes from an extra small to 6X, Yitty also carries gender-affirming shapewear as of this year. The opening lines of a CNN article about the gender-affirming line reads, "It's no secret that Lizzo is a passionate advocate for self-love. Alongside her confidence-boosting music, the singer launched her shapewear brand Yitty in 2022 with a goal of helping women of all body types feel unapologetically good about themselves." So, like I said, the self-confidence, body positivity champion brand was on lock for Lizzo. As the face of Yitty, Lizzo is in several ad campaigns which show bodies of all types and sizes. Lizzo advertises the garments regularly on her own social media, primarily on her TikTok. Around this time, Lizzo also won her trademark case in regards to 100% That Bitch, which is a phrase from her song Truth Hurts. The song's full opening line is, "I just took a DNA test, turns out I'm 100% that bitch." The trademark was accepted because the phrase is so heavily associated with Lizzo's brand. This win came after the trademark had been denied the year prior. In his argument against the trademark, one attorney did acknowledge the phrase was a message of self-confidence and female empowerment. The win also came a few years after Lizzo beat a court battle in which she was accused of plagiarizing lyrics in Truth Hurts, 100% That Bitch being one of them. The trademark rights to 100% That Bitch are exclusive for apparel, so I'm almost certain it will be on some Yitty garments in the future. Because she's been so vocal about self-acceptance and body positivity, and because her mainstream music is catchy and mostly family-friendly, Lizzo has become a role model to a lot of young girls and likely many others. Not only is she a self-proclaimed role model, several articles and tweets have named Lizzo as such. Many parents let their kids listen to Lizzo because of the messages of positivity and self-love within her music, despite some of the sexual themes in dancing. I would bet that the fact that she's so open about playing her flute would win her points with some parents as well. Another thing I've noticed with this most recent tour of Lizzo's, called the Special Tour, was her frequently pulling little girls out of the audience. Obviously, this is not something that only Lizzo does. It's the same concept as when celebrities are seen visiting children's hospitals or working at food pantries. Even if their motivation is mostly out of their own kindness, they're also aware that the good PR doesn't hurt either. At her Sydney show, Lizzo recognized a young fan holding up a sign that said, "Help me show my haters I'm 100% that B." The young girl, named Monroe, told Lizzo she was being bullied on social media and that she wanted nothing more in life than to sing and dance and be like Lizzo. Lizzo invited Monroe on stage, and they had a heartfelt exchange in which Lizzo said that words have a lifelong impact on people, and she shared some encouraging words with Monroe. She also invited Monroe to dance while on stage and recorded a video for her. Not only was this cute moment used to paint Lizzo as a crusader against bullying, it was also acknowledged as one of the more positive interactions at concerts lately in a slew of more negative ones. Even within some of the best constructed brands for an artist, cracks do show, and usually due to the artist's own behavior. Over the past few years, Lizzo has found herself in a handful of smaller scandals, but with most of them, people just moved on over time, as is pretty natural, or were inclined to defend her. In September of 2019, Lizzo accused a Postmates driver of stealing her food, which resulted in the driver suing her. Lizzo had ordered Postmates to her hotel in Boston using the pseudonym Bonnie V, and apparently didn't put her room number in the order details. When the driver, named Tiffany, arrived, she couldn't deliver the food because of the lack of room number and was told by the front desk there was no guest named Bonnie V staying there. Tiffany attempted to contact Lizzo, but after waiting 5 minutes, she left, taking the Postmates order with her. After all of this happened, a Postmates spokesperson did come out and say that Tiffany followed their policy. After not receiving her delivery, Lizzo tweeted directly at Postmates saying that Tiffany stole her food and included a screenshot of her face. Postmates responded to Lizzo in an attempt to resolve the issue. The tweet is now deleted, but at the time, some of Lizzo's fans told her it wasn't smart to essentially dox someone over a Postmates order, especially with a platform of her size. Lizzo doubled down, saying Tiffany marked the order as delivered and then walked out, and claimed she stole her food on purpose, so the tweet was to prevent others from getting their food stolen. After receiving backlash for this, Lizzo tweeted saying, "I apologize for putting that girl on blast. I understand I have a large following and that there were so many variables that could have put her in danger. I'm gonna really be more responsible with my use of social media and check my petty and my pride at the door." Using a sad face emoji after an apology is wild if you're actually trying to be sincere. Still, out of fear of being able to leave her home, Tiffany quit driving for Postmates, Uber Eats, and another service called Caviar. Because her livelihood was affected, Tiffany sued Lizzo for libel, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and invasion of privacy. Tiffany initially sought over $75,000 in damages, but she dismissed her lawsuit in 2021. Ironically, the year after this lawsuit was dismissed, Lizzo secured an endorsement deal with Instacart, which is a service of a similar nature to Postmates, Uber Eats, and all of those delivery services. A couple months after the Postmates situation, Lizzo was in hot water again after wearing a revealing outfit to a Lakers game. She wore an oversized black dress with a massive cutout in the back that revealed a black thong as well as her butt. At the game, Lizzo twerked on the sideline with her butt to the camera, while the Lakers girls performed to her song Juice. Lizzo posted on her Instagram story saying, "This is how a bad bitch goes to a Lakers game." So out of this, several conversations started. The first was over whether the outfit was appropriate to wear to a Lakers game at all, and personally, that gets a resounding no from me. The important context here was that this was a basketball game, not a concert or a music video, so families and kids who didn't expect or had no reason to expect that they would see that were in attendance. Secondly, it became a conversation on double standards, as many claimed a skinny girl would not be as criticized for this as Lizzo was. I do think that's a point that is often true, and because of that, a lot of people's opinions got distorted to the point of them being accused of fat phobia for criticizing Lizzo at all. But of course, some did just use the situation to outright fat shame Lizzo and attack her, rather than the outfit she was wearing, which was the only thing that should have been in question, if anything.
So I don't want to censor myself because everyone's looking at me now. I'm not going to quiet myself. I'm not going to shrink myself because somebody thinks that I'm not sexy to them. Bitch, you really think? Because somebody on Twitter think that I'm not cute, I'm gonna stop existing.
Now, this is one that I hadn't heard about but do want to mention, but I don't think I need to go out of my way to over-explain it. Back in 2021, Lizzo got to meet Chris Brown while backstage at the Millennium Tour. When she met him, she asked for a picture and claimed that he was her favorite person in the entire world, and some fans were disappointed to see this from Lizzo. Last summer in June, Lizzo again found herself in some minor controversy for use of the word spaz on her song Grrrls. The word is considered an ableist slur by many, especially in the United Kingdom. However, in the United States, especially in AAVE, the term is a slang word meaning to lose control or to freak out. Regardless, Lizzo did apologize very quickly after the criticism and re-released Grrrls with a lyric change. So more than anything, the situation turned into a learning moment, as a lot of people were unaware that some found the word offensive. Just a couple months after that, Beyoncé also removed the word from her song Heated. Returning to Yitty, in regard to the gender-affirming line, Lizzo and Yitty were accused this spring of plagiarizing designs from a brand named Your Body. Aside from Yitty allegedly declining a collaboration, Your Body also claimed Fabletics ordered a batch of their compression tops and then used them as the basis for the garments released for Yitty. Both Your Body and an artist named Zachary Drucker called out Yitty and Lizzo on social media. They pointed out that if Lizzo was the advocate for inclusivity that she claimed to be, she would have questions about Yitty's practices as well. In a statement, Your Body claimed, "We wrote to them about our story, the heart and soul that we've put into building our company in partnership with other trans folks, and our sincere hope that a large brand wasn't attempting to profit off of our community's hard work without proper recognition or collaboration. When we finally got a meeting to discuss their line, we expected to see our community represented on the team, but we did not. After that meeting, we followed up multiple times with a proposal for how we could partner, but were largely ignored and brushed off, despite the Yitty team previously sharing that trans community insight was a gap for them and a key learning opportunity." It seems like people are divided on whether the situation was plagiarism or whether Yitty simply ordered from Your Body to do research on creating binders, which is a common practice for companies developing a new product, even if the company doesn't intend to plagiarize. At this point, it seems neither Yitty nor Lizzo has responded to Your Body's accusations, so I'm not sure if the issue is still ongoing or was resolved behind the scenes. So of course, the major scandal, and actually scandal is putting it kind of lightly, is the civil lawsuit against Lizzo that has recently emerged from 3 of her former dancers. I'm not a lawyer, but if you want a more thorough breakdown, I do encourage you to read the full lawsuit, and there are lawyers who are breaking down the lawsuit on social media also, but of course, I will do my best. The lawsuit was filed on August 1st, days after Lizzo's special tour ended. Aside from Lizzo, her production company Big Girl Big Touring, abbreviated as BGBT, and her dance captain Shirlene Quigley were also named as defendants. The 3 dancers named as plaintiffs were Crystal Williams, Arianna Davis, and Noelle Rodriguez. Crystal and Arianna were fired by Lizzo prior to the suit, while Noelle had resigned. Arianna was allegedly fired in May after recording a meeting in which Lizzo was giving notes to the dancers, and Noelle allegedly resigned shortly after. The dancers claimed they were subjected to a hostile work environment while part of the dance team and while touring. They also have alleged sexual, religious, and racial harassment, disability discrimination, assault, and false imprisonment. In total, 9 areas of misconduct are alleged, several of which do not involve all the plaintiffs or all the defendants. One of the plaintiffs, Arianna Davis, claimed the dancers were pressured to touch the breasts of nude performers while at a club in Amsterdam's red light district. She claimed she told Lizzo no 3 times, but Lizzo started a chant to encourage her to touch the dancers anyway. There is also a claim that one of the dancers was allegedly made to eat a banana out of the genitals of a nude dancer. A direct quote from the lawsuit reads, "Plaintiffs were aghast with how little regard Lizzo showed for the bodily autonomy of her employees and those around her, especially in the presence of many people whom she employed."
Working with Lizzo, was there a specific moment or incident where you felt like this was crossing the line and it's actually more of a toxic work environment?
Many instances. I can't pinpoint one. I can probably count at least 10 just right off the bat. I mean, just inviting us to sexually explicit things a lot of times without our knowledge of knowing that there was going to be nudity there.
Arianna also claimed that Lizzo made thinly veiled comments about her weight gain. A quote from the lawsuit reads, "Although Lizzo and Miss Scott never explicitly stated it, these questions accompanied by Lizzo's statements made after the South by Southwest Music Festival gave Miss Davis the impression that she needed to explain her weight gain and disclose intimate personal details about her life in order to keep her job. Miss Scott is Tanisha Scott, Lizzo's current creative director, as well as a choreographer. Davis also alleged the dancers had to re-audition to keep their jobs, though they were already on tour. During one of the auditions, she claimed she soiled herself because she was so afraid of losing her job if she asked to stop to use the bathroom. The plaintiffs claimed to have felt that they had to go along with certain requests that made them uncomfortable in order to remain employed as dancers. They also claimed that Lizzo told the dancers repeatedly that none of their jobs are safe and that she was prone to aggressive outbursts. Noelle claimed that aside from the disrespect Lizzo allegedly showed her, in a specific instance she feared that Lizzo intended to hit her and would have done so if one of the other dancers had not intervened.
For me, the biggest point that was the turning point in all of this was when we asked for our retainer, which is like a holding fee. That is a standard norm, and the rest of the talent on the tour was already receiving. We were like, hey, it's a norm that dancers can ask and should receive, especially if everyone else is receiving. So that was the turning point, and I think the moment in which, tensions started rising between management, Lizzo, and the dancers.
In April of this year, the dancers also alleged they were falsely accused of Lizzo by drinking alcohol prior to a show. It was after this incident that Crystal was allegedly fired in a hotel lobby for challenging Lizzo's accusations. There were also claims of racial and religious discrimination within the lawsuit. The dancers claimed that the accountants on BGBT's new management team, which was mostly white, criticized and scolded them with remarks the lawsuit says were charged with racial and fatphobic animus.
Crystal, what was that breaking point for you?
The breaking point for me was for there to be blatant lies that were being spread about us and what we were doing or how we were conducting ourselves. And then after, communicating our sides of the story, or at least attempting to, it felt like we were, retaliated against. It felt like it was disregarded. It felt like it was ignored. It felt like it was overlooked.
In regards to Shirlene Quigley, Lizzo's dance captain, several of the allegations against her involved religious harassment. Quigley is a Christian and has made that known on several occasions and allegedly berated those who didn't share her beliefs or act in accordance with them. Arianna claimed that Quigley talked about her virginity in interviews and on social media despite not being given permission to do either. Quigley also allegedly called Davis a non-believer and claimed, "No job and no one will stop me from talking about the Lord." Quigley responded to the claims with more talk of God on social media.
God is so, so good. God loves you so much. No matter what you're going through, even if you don't love him, he loves you. Glory to God. I just want to remind you that he is love. He is truth. He is the light. He is the first and the last. And all things work together for those that are called according to his purpose.
Personally, if someone made allegations of this nature against me and they were false, I would respond with silence and probably a lawsuit of my own. Lizzo responded to the accusations on her social media accounts with a statement. The opening of the statement reads, "The last few days have been gut-wrenchingly difficult and overwhelmingly disappointing. My work ethic, morals, and respectfulness have been questioned. My character has been criticized. Usually I choose not to respond to false allegations, but these are as unbelievable as they sound and too outrageous to not be addressed. These sensationalized stories are coming from former employees who have already publicly admitted that they were told their behavior on tour was inappropriate and unprofessional." Her entire statement is on the screen for your reference, just pause to read. Ron Zambrano, the attorney representing Lizzo's former dancers, claimed that Lizzo's statement was proof of her alleged abuse. He stated, "The dismissive comments and utter lack of empathy are quite telling about her character and only serve to minimize the trauma she has caused the plaintiffs and other employees who have now come forward sharing their own negative experiences. While Lizzo notes it was never her intention to make anyone feel uncomfortable, that is exactly what she did to the point of demoralizing her dancers and flagrantly violating the law." In the few days after the lawsuit was publicized, public opinion quickly shifted from being mostly against Lizzo to questioning the validity and gravity of the former dancers' claims, as well as the motivations behind their lawsuit. Some claimed the dancers were suing over feelings they had rather than concrete behaviors of Lizzo, Shirlene, and BGBT. A lot of this sentiment resulted from interviews the former dancers gave days after the lawsuit was filed. In an interview on the Today Show, Arianna claimed what she experienced was, quote, "never blatant fat phobia."
One of the dancers, Arianna Davis, says Lizzo called attention to her weight gain with thinly veiled concerns, though she never explicitly stated it.
I just had this feeling that they had a problem with the way I was gaining weight.
Additionally, Arianna and Crystal conducted an interview with TMZ. This was viewed as a bad decision on their part and likely partly a result of poor legal advice. During the TMZ interview, they were asked questions such as whether they were directly told to do certain things by Lizzo or the other defendants, or whether they felt like they had to.
Were they direct, where they said, I really want you to do it, or was it more, I'm afraid if I don't, I might get fired?
Yeah, I think for both of us, there was like this always looming feeling of thinking that if you didn't do something or you didn't adhere to certain suggestions or demands, that your job could be in jeopardy.
Arianna stated that the dancers that were down to do what Lizzo wanted were favored, hired for more shows, and invited to join Lizzo in other fun experiences in their downtime. She also stated there was no line between professional and personal. Of course, because their words in the interview were framed as feelings rather than concrete actions, many felt they didn't have grounds to sue.
And so we had in our minds that if we weren't, down for anything, that we would then be ostracized later. It was this unspoken thing in the camp that if you weren't super fun, like if you skipped out on all of the like outings and all that stuff, that you wouldn't be seen in good favor from Lizzo, and that you would then not be considered like one of the people that is like.
Others pointed out how explicitly stating that the atmosphere created was more unspoken and something they had in their minds, that interview would be used against them in court if the case did go to trial. And then others questioned whether the dancers in Zambrano intended to go to trial at all, or were hoping to pressure Lizzo and the other defendants into settling out of court. However, many do still see several of the claims made in the lawsuit as valid, especially the ones regarding claims of sexual harassment and the alleged incidents in Amsterdam. They point out that while the dancers may not have been physically forced to do anything, the power dynamic between them and Lizzo put them in a situation where they could not refuse her without feeling their employment would be jeopardized. So we will see how these allegations in the lawsuit unfold if this does end up going to court. Lizzo settling or even winning the case potentially doesn't necessarily mean that she's a nice person, but being unpleasant to work with or unpleasant in general isn't a crime in itself. Outside of the lawsuit, other former employees have spoken about how Lizzo is unpleasant to work with. Hours after the lawsuit, Courtney Hollenquist, another of Lizzo's former dancers, echoed the sentiment. She posted on Instagram, "For clarification, I'm not a part of the lawsuit, but this was very much my experience in my time there. Big shout out to the dancers who had the courage to bring this to light." Quinn Wilson, Lizzo's former creative director, expressed solidarity with Courtney as well as the defendants. She said on her Instagram story, "I haven't been a part of that world for around 3 years for a reason. I very much applaud the dancers' courage to bring this to light. And I grieve parts of my own experience. I'd appreciate space to understand my feelings." Director Sophia Nolly Allison also spoke out, claiming she quit working on Lizzo's documentary because of her alleged mistreatment. In a series of Instagram posts, she recounted her negative experience, claiming, "But in 2019, I traveled a bit with Lizzo to be the director of her documentary. I walked away after about 2 weeks. I was treated with such disrespect by her. I witnessed how arrogant and unkind she is. I was not protected and was thrown into a shitty situation with little support. My spirit said to run as fast as you fucking can, and I'm so grateful I trusted my gut. I felt gaslit and was deeply hurt, but I've healed." Reading these reports made me realize how dangerous of a situation it was. This kind of abuse of power happens far too often. Much love and support to the dancers. Sophia claimed Lizzo created a toxic and hostile work environment and was undermining the work of Black and brown women in the process. So regardless of what happens with the lawsuit, there are now multiple claims of Lizzo not being a good boss to work for, so it stands to be seen if those will have an impact on her career or on her reputation long term. I don't know if anyone else is this way, but sometimes I am kind of wary of an artist or a celebrity when they have to go out of their way to make like peace and positivity and kindness and things of that nature part of their brand. And of course, I'm not saying that those aren't things that you should be promoting, because you definitely should. But it's like, just be kind to people in your everyday life, be accepting, and, making a whole brand off of being nice to people and being positive. It's like, that's how you should be anyway. So sometimes I am wary of that. I'm not saying that every person who associates themselves with that or makes it their brand is fake. But sometimes I'm just like, why should you have to if the way that you live your life is already in accordance with that? And of course, regardless of what Lizzo's brand is, regardless of what she is promoting, if these allegations, if these accusations are true, they're bad regardless. But I always just think that it tacks on an extra element of, girl, what the hell is going on if you're promoting something completely the opposite of the way that you're allegedly acting? I don't know if it necessarily makes things worse because they're bad regardless, but it certainly doesn't make it better. And it's just like, I don't know how to explain it, so I'm not going to try to over explain it. You guys have heard, you know, what I had to say in the video. I'm just not going to do too much. So make sure you let me know your thoughts and your feelings on the whole Lizzo situation down below. And because some of these allegations are serious and have to deal with harassment, as always, I do ask you to be kind, compassionate, respectful, and civilized down in the comments, or otherwise you can just be blocked. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can stick around for more. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitter so that you can keep up with me there. And if you'd like to become a channel member, the link is in the video's description. Again, thank you so very much for watching. I love you so very much, and we'll see you so very soon. Bye-bye.